Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Pod English for Everyone. I'm Sarah, and today I want to help you with a situation that many English learners know very well. You meet someone, you start speaking English, and the conversation begins perfectly. Hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. How about you? I'm good. And then, silence. You want to continue, but you don't know what to say. So today, we're going to learn how you can turn a simple conversation into one that lasts 5, 10, or even 20 minutes. And you don't need advanced English to do it. The first secret is simple. Don't give answers that close the conversation. Imagine someone asks, "Where are you from?" You answer, "France." That's correct English, but you've given the other person very little information. Instead, say, "I'm from France. I grew up near Paris, but I've lived in a few different places." Now you've created several possibilities. The other person can ask about Paris. They can ask where else you've lived. They can ask where you live now. One small detail can create several minutes of conversation. Let's try another example. Someone asks, "What do you do?" Instead of, "I'm a teacher," try, "I'm a teacher. I work with teenagers, and I've been doing it for about 5 years." Maybe the other person asks, "Do you enjoy it?" You answer, "Yes, most of the time. Every day is different, which I like." Then return the conversation. "What about you? What do you do?" Now, you're not just answering questions. You're exchanging information. A useful formula is answer plus detail plus question. Let's practice. What do you usually do on weekends? Answer, "I usually relax." Add a detail. "I usually relax, see some friends, or go for a walk." Then ask, "How about you?" Suddenly, a 5-second answer becomes the beginning of a real conversation. Another important skill is asking open questions. Compare these two questions. Do you like your job? And what do you like about your job? The first question can be answered with yes. The second requires more information. Instead of, "Did you have a good weekend?" you could ask, "What did you do this weekend?" Instead of, "Do you like traveling?" try, "What's your favorite place you visited?" Open questions give conversations more space to grow. But don't make the conversation feel like an interview. Listen to the answer. If someone says, "I went to Italy last summer," don't immediately jump to a completely different question. Stay with Italy. Really? Which part? Maybe they say Rome and Florence. Now, which city did you prefer? They answer, "Probably Florence. It was quieter." You could respond, "I've heard Florence is beautiful. What did you enjoy most about it?" Notice what you're doing. You're not searching for a new topic every 30 seconds. You're exploring the topic you already have. That's one of the biggest secrets to longer conversations. Go deeper before you go somewhere else. And remember, you don't need to speak constantly. A good conversation isn't about proving how much English you know. It's about showing interest in another person and sharing something about yourself. Listen, react, add a detail, ask a question. If you do those 4 things, even simple English can create a surprisingly long conversation. So the next time someone asks, "How was your weekend?" don't think, "What is the perfect English answer?" Think, "What small detail can I give them?" Because that small detail might be exactly what turns 30 seconds of small talk into a real 10-minute conversation. Once a conversation has started, your biggest challenge is often keeping it alive. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to stop thinking about your next question and start listening for details. Imagine someone says, "I had a busy weekend. I went to my sister's birthday party on Saturday." That sentence gives you several possibilities. You could ask, "Oh, nice. How old is your sister?" Or, "Was it a big party?" Or, "Where did you celebrate?" You don't need to invent a new subject. The information you need is already inside their answer. A simple technique you can remember is listen, react, ask. First, listen carefully. Then, react naturally. "Really? That's nice. That sounds fun. Oh no, that's interesting." And finally, ask a related question. Imagine someone tells you, "I am starting a new job on Monday." You could say, "Really? That's exciting. What kind of job is it?" They answer, "I'm going to work for a small technology company." You continue, "Nice. What will you be doing there?" Now, imagine they explain their new position. You can react again. "That sounds interesting. Are you excited?" Look at what's happening. One sentence about a new job can easily become several minutes of conversation. You can also share something about yourself. This is important because a conversation shouldn't feel like an interview. Maybe they say, "I'm a little nervous about starting the new job." You could respond, "I understand. I always feel nervous before starting something new. But usually, after a few days, I feel much better." Then ask, "Do you already know anyone there?" Now you're doing two things. You're showing interest in their experience, and you're sharing your own. That's what makes a conversation feel balanced. Another useful technique is asking follow-up questions. These are questions connected directly to something the other person just said. Someone says, "I love cooking." You ask, "What do you like cooking?" They answer, "Mostly Italian food." You continue, "What's your favorite Italian dish to make?" They say, "Probably homemade pizza." You react, "Really? I've never made pizza at home. Is it difficult?" One topic keeps creating another question. And when you don't know what to ask, remember a few simple words. What, where, when, why, how, who? Where did you go? Why did you choose that? How was it? Who did you go with? These questions can save you when your mind goes blank. And if you're enjoying today's episode, take a second to like the video and subscribe to Pod English for Everyone. It really helps support the channel. And I have a little challenge for you. Tell me in the comments which topic is easiest for you to talk about in English. Travel, food, movies, work, music? And while you're there, tell me what you'd like our next podcast to be about. All right, let's continue. There's another very simple phrase that can keep a conversation alive. How about you? Imagine someone asks, "Do you travel often?" You answer, "Not as much as I'd like. I usually travel once or twice a year. How about you?" They answer, and suddenly you have new information. You can also use, "What about you?" and "you?" or "What do you think?" These expressions return the conversation naturally to the other person. But here's something important. You don't always need another question. Sometimes a reaction is enough. Someone says, "I ran my first marathon last month." You could simply say, "Wow, that's impressive." They'll probably continue naturally. Maybe they'll tell you how difficult it was or how long they trained. Give people space to speak. You don't need to fill every second of silence. A short pause is normal. And if you need time to think, you can say, "Let me think." That's a good question. I'm not sure. Then continue. The goal isn't to speak as quickly as possible. The goal is to make the conversation feel comfortable. Listen to the details. React to what you hear. Share something about yourself. Ask a related question. Then listen again. Listen to, react to, share to, ask. With this simple rhythm, you don't need 10 prepared topics to have a 10-minute conversation. Sometimes, one good topic is enough. Now, let's look at one of the most useful skills for having longer conversations. Learning how to move naturally from one topic to another. Imagine you're talking about the weekend. Someone says, "I went to a new restaurant on Saturday." You start with the restaurant. "Oh, nice. What kind of restaurant was it?" They answer, "It was Japanese." Now you have a new topic, food. You could ask, "Do you like Japanese food?" They say, "Yes, I love it. I actually visited Japan a few years ago." And suddenly, you have another topic, travel. You respond, "Really? Which cities did you visit?" Maybe they say, "Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka." You continue, "Which one did you like the most?" They answer, "Probably Kyoto. I'd love to go back someday." Now you can naturally move toward future plans. Are you planning another trip soon? Look at what just happened. You started with weekend to restaurant to food to travel to future plans. You didn't prepare 5 different subjects. One topic naturally created the next one. This is how longer conversations often work. You can also use expressions that help you change topics smoothly. One useful phrase is, speaking of. Imagine someone mentions a movie. You could say, speaking of movies, have you seen the new one everyone is talking about? Another useful expression is, that reminds me. Someone says, I'm going to Spain next month. You respond, that reminds me, one of my friends just came back from Barcelona. He loved it. Then you can ask, have you been to Barcelona before? And of course, there's, by the way. This is useful when you want to introduce something slightly different. By the way, are you doing anything this weekend? These little expressions act like bridges between ideas. But remember, you don't need to change topics constantly. Sometimes staying with one subject is better. If someone clearly loves talking about travel, stay there. Ask about their favorite trip. Ask where they'd like to go next. Share one of your own experiences. Maybe say, I've always wanted to visit Canada. They might ask, why Canada? Now they're asking you questions. That's another sign of a good conversation. You're no longer responsible for keeping everything alive alone. Both people are contributing. And this is where a 10-minute conversation becomes much easier. You don't need 10 minutes of prepared English. You need one topic, then a detail, then a reaction, then another question. Let's imagine another example. Someone says, I've started going to the gym recently. You ask, how often do you go? They answer, about 3 times a week. You respond, that's good. I try to exercise too, but sometimes it's difficult after work. Now the topic can move toward work. They might ask, what do you do? You answer and add a detail. That could lead to working from home, daily routines, free time, or weekend plans. This is why conversation isn't about memorizing a script. It's about seeing the connections between ideas. So when you're speaking English, don't think, I need another topic. Instead, ask yourself, what can I connect to what they just said? Maybe it's a personal experience. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's something you heard recently. Maybe it's simply, really? Tell me more. And don't be afraid of small pauses. You don't have to speak continuously for 10 minutes. A conversation has questions, answers, reactions, laughter, thinking, and silence. Your job isn't to perform. Your job is to connect. So remember the rhythm we've practiced. Listen, react, share, ask. Then allow one subject to lead naturally into another. Weekend becomes food. Food becomes travel. Travel becomes future plans. And before you realize it, you've been speaking English for 10 minutes without needing a script at all. And as we reach the end of today's episode, I want you to remember one very important idea. A 10-minute conversation doesn't require 10 minutes of prepared English. You don't need to memorize hundreds of questions. You don't need advanced vocabulary. And you certainly don't need perfect grammar. You simply need to know how to keep the exchange moving. Remember the rhythm we practiced today. Listen, react, share, ask. Listen carefully to what the other person says. React naturally. Really? That's interesting. That sounds great. Then share something about yourself. Maybe a similar experience, an opinion, or a small detail. And finally, ask a related question. Imagine someone says, I went to Italy last summer. You could respond, really? I love Italian food, but I've never been to Italy. Which city did you enjoy the most? One simple answer gives you several directions. Maybe you start talking about Italy, then food, then restaurants, then travel. Then places you'd like to visit in the future. That's how conversations grow naturally. And don't forget, you don't always need to speak. Listening is part of conversation too. Give the other person time, show interest, ask them to tell you more. Sometimes the easiest way to have a longer conversation is simply to become a better listener. So here's your challenge for this week. Try to have one 10-minute conversation completely in English. If you don't have someone to practice with, you can practice alone. Imagine you're meeting someone new. Start with, how was your weekend? Answer the question yourself. Add a detail. Imagine another question. React. Continue. Allow one subject to connect naturally to another. Weekend, friends, food, travel, work, hobbies, future plans. And don't prepare everything before you begin. The goal is to train yourself to react in real time. If you make a grammar mistake, keep going. If you forget a word, describe it differently. If you need a few seconds, say, "Let me think." If you don't understand something, ask, "Could you say that again?" None of these moments mean that your English is bad. They're simply part of having a real conversation. And every time you continue instead of stopping, you're building confidence. Maybe your first conversation lasts only 3 minutes. That's okay. Next time, try 5, then 7, then 10. The important thing isn't the number on the clock. It's becoming more comfortable using English to connect with another person. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on Pod English for Everyone. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And leave a comment telling me, what topic could you talk about for 10 minutes in English? Travel? Movies? Music? Food? Your job? Your hobbies? I'd love to read your answers. I'm Sarah. And remember, don't try to create the perfect conversation. Just keep it moving. Listen, react, share, ask. One question becomes one answer. One answer becomes another topic. And before you know it, you've been speaking English for 10 minutes. Keep listening, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep speaking. I'll see you very soon on Pod English for Everyone. Take care, and bye for now.